crucified? Is the resurrection? Mostly I just want to talk about the resurrection since it came up in the last video a little bit more. So I'm gonna look at this word here, resurrection, and let's see here. So the same day came to him Sadducees, which say there is no resurrection, and asked him. So the Sadducees are thinking there is no resurrection. 22:28. Therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be? We know that story. Again, talking about in the resurrection, when people are brought back to life. For Matthew 22:30. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. But as touching the resurrection of the dead, have ye not read that which was spoken unto you by God, saying? And again, that's that part where that God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. Because the dead didn't want God, didn't believe in God. They don't have a God. But the people who do are going to be the living in the resurrection. Because God is their God. Matthew 27:53. And came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. And this one is kind of interesting. Let's see, Matthew 27:53. So yeah, what's interesting, I found somewhat interesting about this. So here he's getting crucified. In the 6th hour, as darkness came over the earth, and then we get down here. Jesus yielded up the ghost, and behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent, and the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. You can see that. A few things here that's odd. So we're going through the account, and we're at the crucifixion, and then it kind of jumps forward a little bit, as we'll see, because Jesus yields up his ghost. And that's when the veil of the temple is rent in twain from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent. And then we jump forward, I guess, because over here it explains that there's another earthquake, or I don't know. Anyway, this is a little interesting. And it came out, and the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. And then over here it says, in the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene unto the sepulchre, and behold, there was a great earthquake, For the angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat upon it. And the angel answered and said unto the woman, Fear not, for I know that ye seek Jesus, which was crucified. So he was crucified. He is not here, for he is risen. As he said, Come see the place where the Lord lay, and go quickly and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead. So he is risen from the dead. He was crucified, meaning he was killed in a harsh way. And then now he's coming back from the dead, he is risen from the dead. And then, and they went and told his disciples, saying, as they were going into the city, and Jesus met them and said unto them, Be not afraid, go tell my brethren that they go into Galilee, and there shall they see me. Now then, when they were going, behold, some of the watch came into the city and showed unto the chief priests all the things that were done. And they bribe about being stealing them away in the night. Jesus came unto them, saying, All power is given unto me in heaven and in earth, given unto me. Go ye therefore and teach all nations, so now here we have Jesus saying he's been given all power in heaven and earth, and that now he's telling them to therefore teach all nations. A few things before I go on here. One thing that I wanted to point out about this over here, and the graves were opened, and many of the bodies. So, a few things. One is, so here, this is when the veil is rent. And then it goes to, and the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. So, I don't know, is that saying that originally, when the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent, and the graves were opened. So the graves were opened when that happened, and then the bodies just laid there until after the resurrection, and then they got up and went into the holy city and appeared unto many. And then when over here we have Jesus saying, go into the city and I'll meet you there. He doesn't talk about that, this was going on either. I don't know what exactly. It's just kind of weird, because then over here is the earthquake where the resurrection's happening. You'd think that this would be over here, where after the, earthquake, that the graves opened, and they, after that resurrection, and they went into town. But instead, then it goes back to from and behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent. And it goes into this graves thing, and then it jumps back to now, when the centurion and they that were with him watching Jesus saw the earthquake and those things that were done, they feared greatly, saying, Truly this was the Son of God. So, and many women there, beholding afar off, which followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering unto him, among them Mary Magdalene. And when the evening was come, the rich man from Arimathea takes Jesus and wraps him and puts him in there. So it appears that this is before this. But this, like, this guy wouldn't have seen these bodies go into town, because it says after the resurrection they go into the town, and it's weird that this is back here. But anyway, aside from that, don't know exactly what that means, but anyway, the whatever this is here does not seem to apply that it's of the mindset that these people are in heaven. And the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose. So again, that goes back to the dead know nothing at all, and you fell on sleep, meaning when you're dying, you're dead. You're asleep until you rise again in the resurrection. Is what I believe, and I would say that this is speaking in that manner. It's a little bit odd, as I was mentioning, but I would still say that wouldn't, and the graves were opened, and many of the bodies of the saints got filled from being in heaven, reattached to the bodies for a little bit, came out of the graves, went in and appeared to many, then dropped their suit, probably, we don't know, maybe re-dropped their suit back off their grave and then went back up to heaven in spirit or something. Like, I wouldn't say that fits that as much as just that you're dead and you're asleep, and then here you come back from the grave. Same as Lazarus being dead and asleep. He's dead and asleep, and comes back to life when Jesus brings him back from the dead there. I don't think that necessarily Lazarus was in heaven spiritually, and then when Jesus called him, that spirit came down out of heaven, entered into that grave, took up the body, and then came out as if he was dead when he was just having fun up in heaven, but now he's back in his groggy body or whatever. I don't think that's the case. But I know it's not what we were, not the way we thought of it. But anyway, then I was going to go on to the next one, which was Matthew 27, no, Mark 12:18. Oh, that's the same. Then came the Sadducees, which say there is no resurrection. Mark 12:23, and there is in there the same verses, different book. Luke 14:14, and thou shalt be blessed, for they cannot recompense thee, for thou shalt be recompensed at the resurrection of the just. So okay, so, and thou shalt be blessed, for they cannot recompense thee, for thou shalt be recompensed at the resurrection of the just. Okay, so this is but when thou makest a feast, call the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind, and thou shalt be blessed, for they cannot recompense thee, for thou shalt be recompensed at the resurrection of the just. And when one of them that sat at meat with him heard these things, he said unto him, Blessed is he that shall eat bread in the kingdom of God. Then said he unto him, A certain man made a great supper, and bade many. So I know that what I used to look at this verse as, or what a mainstream thought process of lenses of that would be, is blessed is he that shall eat bread in the kingdom of God. And they would think that that kingdom of God means that you're up in heaven. But I don't think that is correct. I think that the kingdom of God will be here on earth. Obviously, God is in heaven, and Jesus is at his right hand right now, and the angels are up there. But, the kingdom of God spoken of in the Bible is speaking of, like when Jesus first says, when he comes out of the wilderness being tempted, he says, behold, the kingdom of God is at hand. That kingdom of God, the one that he's the king of, God's kingdom that he has put Christ in charge of. And that's what that kingdom truly is. And so then he goes on, and it talks about they make up excuses of why they don't want to come to this supper. And these are all, worldly things here on earth. The first said unto him, I have bought a piece of ground, and I must need go and see it. I pray thee have me excused. Another said, I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I go to prove them. I pray thee have me excused. One has a wife. And so these are all earthly things, and that's what earthly things get in the way of the command of God, doing what he wants us to do instead of what we are concerned about doing. And this is an example of it. And the kingdom of God is when we let God rule our lives instead of ourselves. So looks like my battery's going to die. I better stop this here.